and so I sent her a message, like she sent me a message, just happened to be that day, and she's like, hey, how are y'all doing? And I was like, well, I've had to call clinic twice because of a nosebleed. And even though it was over text, I could immediately read the empathy and even the fear in her response, because she knows that we started with a nosebleed and they started with a nosebleed. And there's just that immediate, like, oh shit moment, even on a text response, kind of thing. So it's not a club that anybody wants to be in, but the people on the inside are most of the time people that you can fall back on. They'll carry those buckets back into that fire when you're in the middle of it, even if they've come out, or even as they're going through their own fire.
It's 100%. And going through this, for us personally, the diagnosis, we knew nobody. We were alone on an island when all of this happened, had no idea who to talk to, reach out to. But now that's part of the love side of social media, is that we're able to connect with other people that we can talk to and connect with and be part of that community. And no, nobody wants to be part of this family. Nobody wants to be part of this club, but I will forever now go scorched earth for anybody in this community, because we are one family. We are a family that nobody wants to be a part of and a lot of people run away from. But at the same time, we're so much stronger together. And yes, we can be, we can be ourselves. We can be open and honest. We can be real. We can be raw. We can be whatever it takes. And there's very, very few people that we allow into our inner circle that even go deeper into that, which we can speak to about anything. And that means the world. And that's something that I'm hoping to move forward with with the podcast. That's the whole point of this, is being able to connect with people on a different level and let them see what we're doing on a daily basis. That was the point of what we did in Madison just this past week, was that allowing people to see the real and raw side of what really truly is pediatric cancer, that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not fun, kids running down the hallway, because most of these kids don't just smile all the time and they're happy to go to the doctor. Yeah, child life is freaking phenomenal, and they make it livable and bearable for them to go through these treatments. The nurses become your family. The doctors, you end up with their cell phones where you can reach out to them, and you can, whatever time of day, they become your family. And that's so important when you're going through all of this. And it's very hard to, at the same time, really connect with people outside of the community as much as you want them to listen to you. When people say, I understand, you may understand cancer. You may understand that I think all of us in some way are connected to cancer, no matter what, just in general. But kids with cancer is a completely different ballgame and a completely different thing that people don't understand. And they think it's all the same. And it's just not. We're looking at the chemotherapies that children are given. There are literally six drugs that are physically approved for chemotherapy for kids. Everything else that they receive, those aren't approved drugs for kids. They're approved drugs for chemotherapy that they can use in pediatrics. And some of these have horrible side effects. And, ifosfamide. Ifosfamide is one that was on Jace's first therapy. It was ICE therapy for Hodgkin's lymphoma that we were treating her brain cancer with, which, again, throwing darts at a wall is a lot of the way that they treat this, because there aren't set protocols. That put her in such a horrible situation for 12 hours that they had to change up her protocol after that. It's all about trying new things. It's all about trying to figure out what works, getting the doctors to talk to each other, getting them to be open to criticism. We are able to pick our own teams. If you're not comfortable with a doctor or nurse, you let them know. You have to be aware of that. I think far too many of us, maybe it happens so fast that we are not so quick to be trying to get second opinions. And that's not a knock on anybody. It happens super fast. I know for us, it was surgeries for 2 weeks in the hospital, and then we went home, and then it was another week before the protocol and any type of radiation started, which is, again, that's where I differ. Again, you said that, you were there on one day and a few days later you started chemo. And for us, I've always wondered that. Why were we not thrown directly into some type of treatment? And did that cause a detriment that ultimately led to our daughter passing away? That just is the difference between, say, the doctors in Wisconsin versus the doctors in Texas versus the doctors in Florida, whatever, that there's no central communication when it comes to this protocol works for this type of cancer. So I've got so many theories on that I could probably start my own podcast just on that topic alone about the way that everything is going in the world today. And I try to stay away from all of that. I'm trying to be just open-minded, but I look at it and say, our kids are being left behind every single day when it comes to these treatments, these therapies, these options that they have. They're learning how to adapt and become a new normal to have to go to school with no hair, to have to go to school and explain or not explain themselves or what's going on. They're having to maybe change friends because kids are young and they don't understand. Cancer is not contagious, guys, just so you're aware. These kids, I know for us, yes, the kids were 7, 8 years old. They didn't understand it, but they loved their friend. So JC never had an issue with, kids being worried about being around her, but it's different. It can be scary to see your friend come or a new person come to school and look different than you, but in that situation. And that's, again, another unfortunate side effect. But in that, I guess that just brings me to ask a question. Is and has the school and even her friends or the circle of friends been accommodating to her for the most part as she's going through this?
Yes. I mean, even coming in as a new student, we had decided in March of her freshman year that we were going to go ahead and change schools to the district that I sub in, that her little sister's in, and things like that. So we started the process and everything like that. We met with them before school started, after our diagnosis, but before school started, kind of just explaining the situation. When we realized that her going to in-person school when she was in the thick of that extremely hard and heavy treatments and therapies that were just completely wiping her counts out, and we decided to do homebound. I mean, that was on the Friday before school started on Wednesday. So we had to move fairly quickly to be able to get her enrolled and get her starting classes on time. We had a homebound teacher, kind of thing. And so then when we went back to in-person school a month later, once she was on, it was still, intense therapies. They didn't quite wipe her out. Her counts, she never went severely neutropenic on rounds 3 through 6, but just at the beginning of every month, I would email going, hey, this is what our schedule, looks like. This is when we're for sure going to be out, because we had to travel 2+ hours to get to therapies, to get to clinic. And so she was going to be out all day when we had treatment. We had a 504 put in place, and things like that. So the school has been extremely supportive, and works with us. She is doing athletic training, and the volleyball team, she was with the volleyball team in the fall because it was more climate controlled than football, because football season in Texas is ridiculously hot. And so with volleyball being indoors and more climate controlled, they said, well, you can go do volleyball. Those girls welcomed her with open arms, acceptance, and things like that. And then in October, I'm trying to get them to do something in September, one step at a time though. I at least got them to put a slide in the monthly slideshows that they do at all of the schools talking about childhood cancer in September. In October, when the volleyball team did their cancer awareness game, they picked Kendall as their honoree, as the recipient, of that. And they kind of talked a little bit about childhood cancer. They talked about her. They talked about lymphoma, and stuff like that. And then in the spring semester, she did softball. And again, for their softball's cancer awareness game that they did in April, they picked her as their honoree. We ironically missed that game because we were at a cancer awareness event. So it was like, well, we're spreading cancer awareness one way or the other. But we were at Dallas at the Children's Cancer Fund Gala for that event, and kind of things. I mean, her teachers have been, two of her teachers have actually gone through cancer treatments and chemo. And so they understand how crappy it can just make you feel. And so they've been really supportive. They've given her extra time on some of her assignments. They've given her more online assignments than paper assignments, so that when we are in Dallas and getting treatment or in the hospital, they know that she can work on them up there rather than missing the paper assignments there in class. So this year, even changing schools, they've been gracious and accepting and accommodating pretty much through the whole thing, especially with, hospital admissions. You don't always know when those are going to happen. You don't know when your child's going to pop a fever or, in, her case, go hypothermic and have to go inpatient. And when we had that emergency appointment with endocrinology in October, we knew we were going to be out on Wednesday, but we didn't know we were going to be out on Thursday. So I sent the teachers an email and I said, hey, we've got an appointment tomorrow that came up due to an issue, from today's appointment. She got goodie baskets from classes that she's not even in, from kids that she doesn't even know. We had one little instance where she got called a name, but that was an isolated incident, kind of thing. She's got friends that she has made, changing schools, obviously. She's got friends that she's made that are willing to just jump in and help her with her backpack or help her down the stairs or, stand as just that line of defense between that person staring at her kind of thing. Like I said, we reconnected with somebody back in August from our hometown. She unfortunately did pass in September, but her brother transferred back into the school in January, and he immediately was like, I got you. If you have any issues, I'm going to be your guardian angel that's not going to be right there in front of everybody, but I will step in if and when, because I've seen it with my big sister. I've lived it with my big sister. And so he's, her mom and I have reconnected. They played soccer when they were little together. And so, of course, all of these pictures are now popping up as we're going through, soccer season and stuff like that. Memories are popping up. It's like looking at those girls now, it's like they would have never known, 4 years ago, the fight that they were about to have to do. But that relationship they developed on the soccer field helped them over the month and a half that we were able to reconnect with them and things. So as far as school goes, yes, they have been really good with the whole situation. Friends, she's lost some. Some of that may be with, changing schools, not seeing them all the time. But the friends that have come alongside have stepped in and just immediately said, okay, you're mine. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. So there was a lot to it at the beginning of the school year. We were really hesitant. We talked about her going back to her other school because they knew her. Academically, we knew that wasn't going to be possible just because the way her other school was set up. It would have been really challenging for her to have missed that first month of in-person school. And then I think total, she ended up missing an additional 21 days of school between September and December for being in the hospital or being in treatment.
I'm extremely happy to hear, honestly, that it's been so accommodating and that in this situation that everybody has been so open to be there. Of course, obviously, there's always the outlier. There's always the one instance. There's always the one person. But I'm extremely happy to hear that because it is so important that, a lot of these kids, they're different in the fact that they're going through something extremely difficult, but they're still just kids. And the fact that that the schools can understand that, the teachers can understand that, and give them the accommodations that they need or just be there to ensure that they can be successful no matter what is so incredible. And it's such a high praise for the educators that we have right now. And so I'm very happy to hear about that because what it truly does is it allows these kids, these fighters, these warriors, it allows them to own really what they're going through. Like nobody wants to have to go through this. Nobody wants to be the kid that is going through cancer treatments or that doesn't have hair, that is, missing school because they're not feeling well due to what they don't want to be that. But to own it and to turn that into something incredible, which leads me into earlier you had mentioned and usually I ask kind of what are the plans in the future, and you mentioned what the plans are. And I don't know if maybe it'll show up on camera, but my eyes started to tear up because so many of these kids that decide to go into the medical field after what they've gone through, it's unbelievable because they do have that incredible, they have that insight that they're going to be able to pass along. And that is going to be so comforting to other kids that are going to be going through scary, scary situations. And they're going to be able to relate to them on such a personal level. So to hear that, I'm beyond ecstatic. I can't even wait to see all of the incredible things that she's able to do moving forward and owning everything that she's gone through and turning it into such an amazing positive. Because that's unreal. I love it. I've said it before. JC wanted to be a NICU nurse. That was her dream in life. She loved kids, loved babies. That was what she was going to do, and she would have been damn good at it. And to watch these other kids and watch Big K go through this and say, hey, I'm going to take everything that was thrown at me, and now I'm going to put it into something positive. You're turning that negative into something good, and it's going to be such a great outcome, because no matter what, you're going to be able to say in job interview and any speeches that you may give, whatever, I understand and I've been there. Now let's get through this together. And I promise you, you're going to be okay. And that I don't know, there's so many, I don't know that there's enough words for it to say how awesome that is. So I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy for her, for your family. I think that is such an incredible way to give back and a path to take after such, honestly, a rough road, to have something thrown at you that no kid should ever have to deal with.
Yeah, we're part of a childhood cancer network here that started with a couple of moms who, like you said at the beginning, you were alone, you were on an island. They felt that way, and so they started a network. It started out as just one town, and now it's, reached all of East Texas, and I think last count, they're going into their 11th year with this, and last count, I think we were over 140 kids that are a part of this Gold Network kind of thing. And a lot of them do want to go into, the medical field. A good handful of them that I know of want to do some sort of oncology. Even when, one of them, he was an infantile, leukemia survivor. He wants to be an oncologist. And we've had, any and all types of childhood cancers. We've had AML, we've had B-cell leukemia, T-cell, Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's, DIPG, we've, anything and everything in between kind of thing. And, it started as 2 or 3 moms going, we're in this alone. Let's find with others. And and they have come alongside us, and they support you, while you're in the hospital, when you get home, when you're, they think of things that as fresh diagnosis, the care package that we got had Tide Pods in it, had extension cords in it, because who's going to think in a moment's notice that you need laundry detergent or an extension cord or an air freshener even kind of thing. And so all of those ended up going in my, in my go bag that I still have packed, because my anxious heart is it's not letting it go yet. It has moved from the corner of our bedroom into my closet, but it's still there ready to go. So, but a lot of those kids, every year right before September, they do a big kickoff to childhood cancer awareness. And they feature each one of those children, and they tell, what they want to do with the future. And our first one was this past August, and I counted at least 17 of those kids wanted to do something in the medical field. So it's crazy how much it can shape the kids, even, like I said, even as young as 7 months old, being diagnosed, and anywhere in between. And they don't just cut you off because you're, we've got a 21-year-old in the group, but she didn't start out, she didn't age out, kind of thing. She's still part of the Gold Network. She's still part of the family, and they stick with you, whether your child, no matter where your child is, whether they're in treatment, post-treatment, they've laid down their sword, they honor those kids at every event as well, So, and like I said, 10 years ago, she said at their first event, their, Gold event on the square, she said they had a table with 10 picture frames on it. This year it was a wall. She had to take them out of the frames because there were too many kids to fit on the wall with the frames. And it's crazy how quickly you find, and you do start to network. Somebody was like, I can't believe there's so much cancer in this area. And the best analogy I could think of was when you buy a new car, you don't see that car until you buy that car. And then all of a sudden, there's tons of Chevy Traxxas on the road. You're like, where did that car come from? I didn't notice them before I bought one. And so it's just one of those, like, the cancer was there. You just didn't notice it until you were there.
Yep. No, I've said it. I've said before that cancer in general, but pediatric cancer is so much more prevalent than people understand, because we're told and we're force-fed that it's rare. We're told by commercials, we're told by the government, whatever. But I guarantee that if anybody walks out of their house at any point in time and walks 10 doors down either direction, you will find a kid or a family that is going through pediatric cancer or who has fought it. That's how prevalent that it is. It's, again, and it's just, the car analogy works out perfectly, because that's so true. Where, like, our daughter bought an orange car. Okay, well, now we see 7 of them driving around the neighborhood that we never noticed before. But and I've said before too, we have a child that's literally a block away from us, around the corner. It's a Make-A-Wish house where every single year his Make-A-Wish was to have one of those massive Christmas displays where all the thing is set to music and everything. We've driven by that house. We've lived in this house 14 years, and we've seen that house, never knew until we got into this world and realized what it was. It is so much more out there than people are giving it credit for, and that's not a good thing to be given credit for. It's a problem. It's an issue, and somehow, some way, we're going to have to figure it out. The one thing that I wanted to go back on again is that when you think about all of these kids that are going into the medical field, that are going through cancer treatments now, in the reality of it, the pediatric cancer community is almost shaping and rebuilding the medical community, because we are now putting these kids that have fought this, the worst thing in the world, the strongest people on this planet, and we're putting them in the fields where they're going to understand it the most, and they're going to create the next discoveries. They're going to do that. But the only way that's going to happen is if we give them the tools to beat it in the first place. And that is what we're lacking so much here. I love, and I had to tell people in the past, I love hearing stories of kids ringing the bells. I love hearing stories of kids, every single thing that happens, every day, every new hair that grows, right, should be a victory. You should absolutely celebrate it. And I realize, too, that parents in our situation where we've lost our child, a lot of people don't want to share those victories because you're afraid that, I don't know, I know survivor's guilt is a real thing.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want so badly to have those victories for everybody else. I know that we couldn't save JC, and I am at peace with that. But I know that we can do something for all of these kids that are going through it now. I know that we can make a difference. So I want to hear those stories. I want to see them shared. I urge people to share them and to be proud of everything that's happening and own everything you're going through. This battle sucks, both for the kids and for the parents. It's horrible. It changes us. We are the same people, but we are, in a sense, broken, but we are the same people, and we can be talked to, and we can be friends, and we can do all the same things we used to do. Support tends to dwindle a little bit when either the child finishes treatment or passes away. The support changes from the outside. And again, I don't understand the dynamic of that, but it does. But we are the same people, and these kids are doing great things, and they're going through these great things, but they're doing them behind the scenes because not enough people are talking about how bad this issue is. So that being said, I am so proud to know all these children that are bravely battling all of this. I'm proud to know all of these kids are succeeding and creating incredible futures for themselves, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. And for your family, I am so excited to have you be able to talk about those victories. And yes, the speed bumps and road bumps and everything it took to get there, but those victories are so incredible, and I'm so excited for you and your family for that.
So yeah, and you said survivor's guilt. I just talked about it with my therapist last week. It was like, there's things that now we're doing. There's people that we're meeting. There's experiences that we're getting to do, and things like that we wouldn't ever get to do if it weren't for the cancer. It's like one of my really good friends that we've met along the way. We ran into each other at the Ronald McDonald House one Sunday night. She just happened to be wearing a shirt from my hometown, and I was like, "Hey, are you from Longview?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Wait, are y'all, are you the other car, from this particular car dealership in the parking lot?" And we're like, "Yeah." Turns out we have the same pediatrician. She was diagnosed 3 weeks after us. We've run in the same, like, we wouldn't have run in the same circles. Even being from the same town, having the same doctor. Maybe we've been in the waiting room together. We just didn't notice each other. Just because of our age differences, for us and our kids and schools and things like that, we would have not ever met if it weren't for cancer. And so it's like, while we would trade all of these experiences and the gifts and everything to have a healthy child, I don't want to lose the friends that we have made, kind of thing. And so it's like, you can hold more than one emotion. You can feel more than one emotion at the same time. You can feel joy that you can sit at church on Mother's Day with your children, but at the same time, you can feel the pain and the sadness and the grief of, the friends that are in the hospital with their children, or that mother that's not going to get to spend Mother's Day with all 3 of her children ever again. So the survivor's guilt is real, but learning how to balance feeling more than one emotion at once is hard. But it's something that we do because we do all rejoice in the good for everybody, but then we hurt with the hurt. But then those of us that aren't, I don't know how to say it, but if we're not the family that is the hurt, we hurt and we grow, or we grieve with them, but then we have to pull ourselves up to be able to help continue to pull them up and to support them even months after the situation, kind of thing. And so it's like, let's not forget them. Let's continue to support them even after the fact, whether that is dinner 2 months later or donuts on a Saturday morning years later, kind of thing. We've got to keep fighting and keep supporting, no matter where, just because your child is gone doesn't mean you're any less, or that you're not still a part of, the community. Because once you're in the community, once you're in the family, you're there forever.
Right. Yeah, I've had conversations about survivor's guilt with a couple other people, and I understand it. And we're coming up on 4 years now since JC passed in July. And I think personally for us, and I don't know that other people get the sentiment, but I think that it gets harder every single year. I mean, we've just learned how to survive and live and move forward. I think it gets harder. And it gets harder because we have 2 other daughters that I watch grow up and accomplish things and achieve things that JC will never do. And that, I think, is what makes it difficult, because now all of these situations, whereas, living on the edge or living through scanxiety, which is a real thing, living through these tests that are coming up, or when a cough is not a cough and things like that, for me, it's that every single time, one of my other 2 achieves something great, it's a bittersweet moment for me, because now I know that that's never going to happen for JC. And I know, that, whether it's graduating high school or driving a car or having a boyfriend or whatever, all these things are hard for me. So I'm super happy on the outside for my other 2, and I absolutely praise them and am proud of everything they do. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, but it's just not fair that now JC will never be able to accomplish these things or achieve these things. And so, for me going forward, and I know for my wife, and she, she grieves differently, and, we're completely opposites when it comes to that. Moving forward, it is definitely a difficult life to not have your child grow up with you. And yeah, now we can play around with AI, and it is creepy and weird, but it can show you what things should look like and stuff like that. But it's it's not reality. And now we live with memories, and we live with videos, and we live with pictures, and that's our life with her. And so that is difficult for me. And so unfortunately, I don't see it on the other side. I don't get to feel that other side, the survivors, how they feel, but I get it, and I do, and I acknowledge that, because to me, that just means that you are a real, true, genuine person if you feel that way. Because if you didn't, I'd almost question why don't you? But I mean, one conversation I had was it was with a mom, but it was her son, who was, a child who has survived, and he felt bad. He truly felt bad at a young age. Why me? Or why me and why not them, and vice versa. It's like, I get it, but I just don't want you to ever, and I guess this is me being the psychologist, whatever, psychiatrist, me saying that, I don't want you ever to overshadow, your own accomplishments with what we couldn't fix, because it's not your fault. It's unfortunately the cards were dealt when it comes to a diagnosis in this community is that usually prognosis is not very good. And a lot of us don't get a very good look or very good outlook in the beginning. It's nobody else that's going through it, and no other warriors, no other families. It's not your fault. But I truly do feel it. It doesn't make me feel good that you feel bad. It makes me feel good that you have a heart, and that you can truly understand that that you're still going to support us, and we're not going to leave. We're still going to support you in anything that you go through. This is a mutual respect, and once we're in this, like you said, you're in it, and we're in it for life. And whatever people need from us, whatever we can provide, we want to be there, because that is solidifying the legacy. And that's our whole entire purpose. If there's anything else that you would like to share, anything else you'd like to talk about, please do. Otherwise, I think it's been really good to hear about your story, about your family, about Big K, about everything that she's going through. I'm so proud of the fact that the bell ringing. I'm proud of the fact that what's going to happen later in life. I think it's great. And let's get her into Baylor, right? Let's get her in. So if you're listening, let's get the acceptance going, guys.
We got a couple of years. She's only going to be a junior next year, but yeah, I mean, she's one of those that hopefully in a few years we can go back from that baby picture when she's like 6 months old, sitting in my lap, sitting on Judge Baylor's lap. We can recreate that kind of thing with her graduation gown, her nursing degree, so she can go work at Children's and help cure cancer.
I love it. And I have nothing but good hope and respect and faith in that. And when you can be a guiding light like that and have such an insight you didn't want, but an insight that can truly be a gift for other people, then I don't think there's any other thing that she can offer that would just be more beneficial. And I'm so excited to continue to follow the story and watch it grow. So at the end of every episode, what I do is I ask my guests to give advice to either the community, to other parents, to before you versus or future you, just some advice that you can leave the audience with that is something that has just either been beneficial to you or you've kind of learned along the way.
Don't try to do it alone. Ask for help. Accept the help. That was really hard for us at the beginning. Was we were always the ones that were in the shadows. We were always the ones that provided the meals for the meal trains. We were always the ones that gave, and we hardly ever asked. And it was hard to ask. You can't do this alone. Sometimes you need somebody from the outside to bring you something from the hospital or to the hospital, whether that's animal crackers or socks, or just have somebody, while you're in the hospital, have somebody come and clean your house, so that's just one less thing that you have to worry about your child coming home from and having that dust and that dirt and that grime, that has been in your house, that, you keep saying, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I can do it. Just reach out. I've found that there's a lot of cleaning companies that will do something, that will do 1 or 2 free cleanings at the beginning, that kind of thing. But ask for the help and accept the help, and know that this is not something that you can do alone, and don't try to do it by yourself, because there's people out there who understand, who care, who want to come alongside you. So let them.
That is probably the most perfect advice you could give. And coming from a person that still has trouble asking for that help, just know that people want to help. People have the internal need to help and assist you, but a lot of times you truly have to ask for it. They're not just going to give it. So that is great advice. And so once again, I want to thank you for spending some time with me today and telling me your story. And we'll keep continuing on watching everything and watching you grow, watching your family grow, and watching the successes. So thank you so much again for hanging out with me today.
Thank you.